My name is Cathy Harris, Katrusha Harris, and I welcome you to Ukrainian Connections. We're filming this right now, and it's going to be for our March 2025 show. And I think that's my 17th episode on Rogers TV, which is pretty cool. So thanks for following Ukrainian Connections and being our guest as we go along. Today, I'm grateful to be invited to the home of Betty Karpiuk. And in Ukrainian Connections, we share about Ukrainian stories, history, the arts, our culture, the challenges, the opportunities, the things that we have shared through our lives that we want to share with you. And I'm pretty excited today because the home of Betty Karpiuk is also the home of the master Pysankarka, which means a pisanka maker or a Ukrainian Easter egg maker. And so we're pretty excited to bring you into the house with me as I visit with her today. So, Betty, thank you so much for letting me come into your home again today.
My pleasure, yes.
So, before we start talking about the beautiful artwork that you do with Pysanky, I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I can tell you that I was born in Saskatchewan in a little town called Theodore. Just a stone's throw from Yorkton, because people will know Yorkton before they know Theodore. And yeah, I lived there till I was 17. Then I moved to Thunder Bay. Well, it was Fort William at the time. My sister had come home for a holiday, and I think I was a little fed up with the farm. So I accompanied her back to Fort William, and that's how I ended up in Fort William. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and it wasn't too long. I think it was only a week before I got a job at McKellar Hospital. I think people will probably remember McKellar. I think it's called McKellar Place now. Yeah, so, yeah, that was the beginning of my life in Thunder Bay.
Uh-huh. Okay, so you told me how you came to Thunder Bay, but I want you to back up a little bit and tell me a little bit. You said you grew up on a farm. Did you have a big family? Tell me about that.
Yes, we had a big family. I'm the 15th one of the children born to my parents. Yeah, I had six brothers and 8 sisters, and I was the 9th girl. So, yeah, there was a lot of arguments, a lot of fun, a lot of work too. When you lived on the farm, you just didn't play; you worked. Yeah. And when my sister, who was already in Fort William, when she came home, I thought I was fed up with farm work, so I decided to follow her to Fort William.
How old were you when that happened?
I was 17.
17.
17, yeah.
So I can't imagine having 14 siblings, and I also can't imagine your mother trying to cook for 15 kids, a husband, and probably some farm hands. Like, what was that like? Did everybody have to help in the kitchen? And
well, some of my older siblings would help my mother in the kitchen, but we always had a long table, you know, to fit in 15 children plus adults. And yes, we sometimes had a hired man. They called him hired man at the time. And yeah, there was a lot of cooking, no refrigeration. And so everything had to be cooked fresh. You had no fridge, so you had nowhere to store anything. So everything had to be cooked fresh. So, yeah.
I'm curious, how many bedrooms were in the house that you lived in?
Well, we didn't have bedrooms. We just had a big house. The downstairs was a kitchen, a dining room, and it's a very special room where you only kept special things like pictures, wedding pictures or something, and or special clothes. So upstairs just had 2 rooms, so we used to sleep 2 and 3 to a bed in order to put everybody into those 2 rooms. So it was pretty crowded, but
but cozy on a cold winter day, I bet.
Oh yes, we even had we had a heater upstairs that we used to heat with wood. Well, there was nothing else. You didn't even know of coal, so they used to burn wood and just to heat the upstairs. But once the wood burnt, it got pretty cold.
I can see the incentive for wanting to move to the big city. So when you came here when you were 17, did you live with your sister for a little while?
I did, yes. We were renting rooms on Archibald Street. A week after I got here, I got a job at McKellar Hospital. I worked there for probably a year or so, and then it just so happened that I met these people who were also from Saskatchewan, and they had a friend, and he was anxious to find a Ukrainian girl because he was Ukrainian from Ukraine. So they arranged for a blind date. I don't know if you know what a blind date is.
Oh, I know what a blind date is, yeah.
So they arranged for this blind date, and the rest is history.
So where did you go for your blind date?
We went to the show.
Okay. Do you remember what show you saw?
No.
You're probably too nervous.
You weren't interested in the show, you were only interested in who's sitting next to you.
So you said your husband was actually from Ukraine?
Yes, he was, yes.
And what town was that from?
He was from the Silo of Kosciu, and it was a beautiful place, just beneath the Carpathian Mountains. It was beautiful, and I was so happy to have gone there later on in life. So we got married. We probably courted for a couple of years. In 1954, we got married, and we went to Saskatchewan for our honeymoon.
Big Saskatchewan, okay.
Big Saskatchewan, and they made another wedding for us there.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was a typical Ukrainian wedding with even home brew.
Oh wow! This is a lot to take in for people who haven't lived this kind of lifestyle, lived in a boarding room as a student and not in residence, but to start life out is totally different. So we're going to continue this story, and we'll be right back to Ukrainian Connections. Welcome back to Ukrainian Connections, where we are in the home of Betty Karpiuk in Thunder Bay. We are just talking about how she came to live in Thunder Bay and meet her husband, get married. And I'm wondering, what kind of organizations and community did you get involved in?
Well, it seems like it was almost immediate because a friend was in the choir, and so she invited me into the choir. So once I got into the choir, things just kept multiplying and multiplying. So I joined the choir. It was first the women's choir, and then it was a mixed choir, and then I got involved with the Pysanky dance group. They were the first Ukrainian dance group of fair size. So I was involved with them. I also got, once you get involved in one thing, you automatically seem to get involved in everything else. So it was no time at all that I got into the Ukrainian Canadian Women's Committee. Then from there, I got into the Port Arthur visa, where I was president, manager, and worked in the kitchen. I was jack of all trades there.
Chief bottle washer.
everything. I even scrubbed kitchen floors. Yeah, and it seems once you get involved, people seem to pick you up. They figure if you did well there, you can do well somewhere else. So I got involved in St. Vladimir's Church, and well, before St. Vladimir's, there was St. Mary's in the East End. So I was involved there, and that was where I got my first lesson in making Pysanky, the Ukrainian Easter eggs. And I guess we'll probably get to that a little later.
So it sounds like you were a very organized person, that people were asking you to join different organizations and be involved, and you took charge, and you weren't afraid of hard work.
No, I never was away. I was never afraid of hard work. I worked hard all my life. So, yeah, I got involved with the women's Ukrainian Women's Association, Daughters of Ukraine, and when they closed, I got involved with again. It was an association with Olha Basarab. Then I got involved in the folklore festival. And of course, it was a meeting after meeting. You always, especially before the festival, they had meetings after meetings. Once I got involved in there, then I got picked to be the judge at the CLE for the women's division, to judge whatever they entered, in there.
A lot of handiwork and embroidery and
everything. Yeah, so everything that they had in the women's section, which is too bad they don't have anything like that anymore. Because it was nice to see what people came up with, the different crafts and stuff. So I was involved in too many things. There were times when I was out of the house for every night of the week. If it wasn't a meeting, it was no matter one meeting or another meeting. But
so in all of that, you had time to make Pysanky, teach Pysanky. So about how old were you when you first learned? You were in your 20s, maybe?
I probably was about 20, and they were teaching Pysanky at the East End Church, and so I went to the first meeting where they were organizing this group, and there were probably about 10 women at that meeting, and they were all anxious to learn. So we started a club of making Pysanky. Well, they laughed at mine. They laughed at the way I made mine. But as time went on, mine turned out to be the best, and it ended up that I was the only one that continued. A lot of them just dropped out, but I continued till. Well, even to last year. Yeah, so
that's pretty incredible. Now, your Pysanky you've made yourself, but you've also taught many people. Where have you taught people?
Oh, well, I've taught people at different schools. one of the main places that I taught Pysanky was, it was a demonstration, sort of, was at the Dauphin Festival.
In Dauphin, Manitoba.
In Dauphin, Manitoba. And that was a proud moment for me to be invited to do Pysanky in Dauphin, because people were there from all over the world, and I was pretty proud of myself.
Oh, that's great. That was a great honor.
Yeah, it was. Yes.
Now, in addition to teaching and demonstrating, you've also had your eggs sent to many people. Either you've sold them, you've donated them, or you've gifted them. So what are some of the places around the world where your eggs might be sitting today?
Oh my goodness. I've got eggs just about all over the world. I've got eggs in Yorkton. I've got eggs in Ottawa in the Museum of Man. I've got eggs in Germany. I've got eggs in Edmonton. Well, like I say, I've just got eggs all over the world, because I had friends who would be traveling and they would always want to take an egg or something. I've also got eggs in Ukraine. I was there one year for Easter, and I brought some Easter eggs. My sister-in-law was showing them off to everybody, because they don't make them like we make them here. That was a pretty proud moment for me. Yeah. So my eggs have sort of rolled.
They've traveled.
They've traveled.
They've rolled around. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to take a short break here, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Ukrainian Connections, and we have Betty Karpuk here, who's going to talk to us a little bit about the art of Pysanky. So this is what kind of egg?
This is an ostrich egg.
Okay. And you made it?
I did, yes. Yes, with much difficulty. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about making a Pysanky? We'll use this one as an example because it's big and people can see it clearly, right?
Okay. So, well, you start off really with the white egg. You start with the white egg, you draw your lines around the egg. Anything you want in white, you cover with wax, and it'll remain there, because the dye will not go under the wax. So once you've done the white, you're drawing on white, you put it in yellow, and you work on it with a wax pen or a stylus, or a kistka, we call it in Ukrainian. So you do your yellow, all your yellow designs. Then you, and if there's areas you have to wax in, you wax them in, like the heavier parts here. You wax those in. And then if there's any green to be applied, you apply it on a yellow egg, because if you put it if you put green on an orange egg or the following color, you'll probably get a brown. So in order to keep it green, you use a toothpick and you put the green on with a toothpick, and you cover it with wax. Then you go into the orange egg. Anything you want in orange, like these, like this, like a spider, or these little branches. You do that with your stylus, and that's going to remain orange. So because it's all covered with wax, it's all done with wax. Then you go into red, and any color before that is all covered. So we're working now on a red egg. So again, you cover all the areas you want in red, and then you end up going into black. like it's a long process, but the results are always beautiful. So once you come out of black, then you put it, well, I put mine in the oven at a low temperature, and as the wax starts to melt, you wipe the wax off it, and then you apply varnish. You probably need about 2 coats of varnish. I usually use 2 coats of varnish, because if you've missed something with the first coat, it'll get covered with the second. So the result is a beautiful egg.
Thank you very much for that great explanation. So this ostrich egg is hollowed out. So there's a little hole that Betty put in here and hollowed the egg out so it shouldn't ever explode and it won't smell.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right, yeah. Mm-hmm. So how long did this egg approximately take you to make?
If you worked on this egg only, it would probably take you a couple of days.
A couple of days.
Yeah.
So like,
because you have to, I would make a cradle sort of a material, put it on that material, and you have to keep turning it as you work on it. You keep turning it and working on it. So it takes a while because you're spending a lot of time just positioning the egg to the right position you need.
Especially when it's so big like this.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have an assistant here that's helping with taking some of the eggs. So you mentioned a few tools, and I just wanted to show you have an electric kiska that you've used for many years. Mm-hmm. And so this is where you would put the beeswax in the funnel. That's right. And it would melt through here and onto the tip, and you would draw with this.
That's
okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, and then you had a really antique box here. I wanted to show here. So somebody, you don't remember who made this for you, but this is an old antique electric kiska.
Yeah. I can't even remember who made it, but it was, well, for the time, at that time it was pretty modern. But as time went on, people started making the two kiskas with one
a fine and a with one motor.
Yeah, exactly.
I love this box here. It's got Sani Jean sanitary and hygienic dustless crayons from Lindsay, Ontario. This is kind of an antique, and a very much an antique roadshow is happening here today. Mm-hmm. And then you have some modern and some of your older kiska that you've used over the years, and I thought they were kind of cute to show. Mm-hmm. And you hollowed out the ostrich egg, but mm-hmm. I don't think you used this tool for that. But this is a tool that you've hollowed out your smaller eggs with.
That's right.
So if you can describe, actually, maybe I'll just have that egg in the gold stand there.
The chicken egg.
That one. Mm-hmm. And if we can just use this as a guide to explain how you would hollow out an egg. So I'm going to give you this tool, and I'm going to take this so you have 2 hands. Okay. Okay, we got this. And so how would you use that tool to hollow out an egg?
Okay, I have like a little drill, like a bit from a drill, and I drill a little hole in there, and that one end, and I drill one in the other end, and then I use this, and it's just air, and you start pumping air into it, and the insides start coming out the other end. So you just keep going, pumping it out, and to make sure that it doesn't, because if it's just left as it is, it may smell. So I put some water in there, and I pump the water into there. And give it a good shaking and pump the water out, and then it's ready for varnishing.
So, and you would hollow your eggs out after you're finished the whole egg.
Once it's dry, I varnish them. I varnish them, and because if you don't varnish them, they'll lose the color very quickly. So I have varnished them. So I usually use 2 coats of varnish. So,
okay. So the holes on Betty's eggs are so tiny, like I can barely see that hole. Like that's pretty amazing fine work that you've done. Not just your eggs alone are so fine and detailed, but even the dainty little holes on there that you use to hollow out the eggs. And I can't imagine getting that much egg out of that little hole quickly. So you're a very patient person. Yes. So I want to see another. You've got some little pullet eggs there that are pretty cute. So pullet eggs are the first eggs that a chicken lays before they start getting full-size eggs. And some of these are not hollowed because the problem with pullet eggs, they're very, very fragile as well, right?
The shell is very thin.
Yeah, but many of them have not hollowed out. They've dried out already, so they're fairly dry inside. So there's probably no risk of them breaking and smelling after. And then we have another beautiful egg over here that's got. What kind of egg did you say this one was?
This was a goose egg.
A goose egg.
Yeah.
I really love the color combination of the orange with the red and the black. It makes it very rich looking. Yes. Now, are you still making eggs today?
Well, I haven't started this year. I'm hoping to. I worked on them still last year. I'm hoping to still make them this year because I have some new great-grandchildren that I'd like to make an egg for, because every year I make an egg for my children, for my grandchildren, for my great-grandchildren. So everybody gets an egg. Children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. So I'd like to keep that up.
I understand that you've been putting their names on the eggs that you've been making most recently. And here's an example to show some of her handiwork with her writing and writing people's names on it. And here she's written Christos Voskras, which it means Christ is risen, and very, very, very detailed, fine work. And I understand that the eggs that you made last year, you put your great-grandchildren's names on them, very similar to this as well. But of course, they have their eggs, so we don't have them to show today.
Yeah, and there's also the deer that represents something. So I try to incorporate meaning as well as art. So, yeah.
So we're going to include some pictures of your Pysanky. I actually have a photograph that was taken of some of your Pysanky, and it was in a frame that I just took out so that you wouldn't have the glare. But this looks like it's a catalog magazine book that you would buy, and just gorgeous. And Betty has done so many eggs over the years. I have one of her eggs as well that I bought years ago, and we'll showcase some of the pictures of her collection that's around the house here today as well. We do have 2 Pysanky workshops coming up in Thunder Bay in March. There's one at Toy Sense that you can book online or book in the store, and one in April with the League of Ukrainian Canadians that's going to be happening at Holy Cross Church. So we've learned a lot today from you, Betty, not just about the beautiful art that you do with Pysanky, but all the amazing things that you've done in your life and the exciting life you had as a kid. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think for some of us who haven't had to live through some of the hardships and challenges of growing up in the 30s and 40s and 50s, see things very differently. So I really appreciate you sharing with us today.
Yeah. It was my pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah. And thank you everybody for joining us today on Ukrainian Connections. Slava Ukraini. Heroyam Slava.
Heroyam Slava.